The Women's Rugby World Cup will be renamed simply as the Rugby World Cup. The governing body says it's part of a rollout of gender-neutral naming for tournaments, but does it go far enough? Well, Angela Barnes, our sports correspondent, has been looking into this. Angela, what's behind this rebranding?
Well, the World Rugby says that this is the ultimate statement in equality. Now, this is the first time that a major sporting federation has got behind this and dropped those gender titles. The first time this has happened in a major sporting tournament. So it really is a very momentous moment. And of course, this comes off the back of the very successful Women's World Cup football campaign as well, where we asked that question at the time, will the momentum wear off in women's sports? But of course, we're just seeing it growing and growing. And this will also apply to the Rugby World Cup Sevens tournament as well, when the men's and women's games will be playing simultaneously in the same host country without any gender titles. And that too is off the back of World Rugby launching in May its brand identity campaign, Women in Rugby, and pushing with the campaign hashtag Try and Stop Us to try and drive growth in the sport. And so this really all falls into that bigger picture that they're trying to build and push for the women's game.
Okay. Well, in football, so many high-profile players, welcomed the emergence and the prominence of the Women's World Cup there. But has that been echoed here?
Absolutely. I think, this has come off the back of that. The Women's World Cup, the Football World Cup here in France in the summer, I think it surprised many people who weren't expecting those record audience ratings that we saw, some sellout stadiums. And of course, we also saw what can be achieved with sponsorship. And that's something else that the World Rugby are going to do. They're following in UEFA and the Football Association's footsteps, and they've decided to separate sponsorship rights for men and women. And so that as well is a very bold move, but it goes to show that they believe that the women's rugby can attract those big commercial partners, very much like the Women's World Cup did. So I think this is just building on that momentum and just shows that things are really moving in the right direction.
Okay, well, it's so rare that we have a story where everybody agrees. Is that the case here?
It's very true, but of course, not everybody agrees. We have had some very positive reaction to this. Of course, the World Rugby chairman, Sir Bill Beaumont, said in a press release, I'll just quote something that he said. He has said that by adopting gender balance in the naming of men's and women's Rugby World Cup competitions, we are setting new standards in equality. And also the World Rugby Women's Advisory Committee chair said that he's very excited about this landmark decision, but it's just the beginning of the journey. However, on social media, I have had some mixed responses today. Just to quote a couple of things that people have said. One viewer said that for him, he's going to find it very confusing. He says, how will I know the difference, whether I'm going to be watching the Rugby Men's World Cup or the Women's? And somebody else said, if we want to talk about gender neutrality, then why don't we just have one game? So there we go, mixed reaction to that.
Indeed, well, the debate will go on, I imagine, ahead of the World Cup, which kicks off in just a month's time. Angela Barnes, thanks for joining me on that one.